Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and hello today on a Saturday. Don't get too used to it. But my Friday was, for lack of a better word, hectic. And I did actually no, internet work at all. I did zero. I even forgot to upload my Twitch re-upload onto my Twitch re-upload channel. So I just was really too busy with other things yesterday. And so today, Noel had a work event that he had to go to. And I said, I will take some time to check in with the YouTubies and let them know what is up with Amberlynn and one of Amberlynn's ex-partners, Beck. If you don't know, Beck reached out to a reaction channel called Karina Kaboom and asked to do a Q&A on Karina's channel. And Karina actually posted two different parts of it, so it kind of works out that I'm a little bit late because now I can just tell you both parts, the highlights from both parts of it. And honestly, truly, the reason that I'm covering it and not just directing you all to go to Karina's channel and just watch it there is because I imagine at some point this is going to come up in Amberlynn's now, I guess, weekly 3 hours of work that she does when she comes onto YouTube and does live streams. So I just wanted to give some highlights of the things that I think are most likely to irritate Amberlynn, to elicit a response from Amberlynn, and we can kind of go from there. Also, Amberlynn totally already posted a TikTok trying to act super unbothered about this Q&A that Beck did. So, I don't know. I mean, she doesn't explicitly say that this is what this TikTok is about, but it feels, I don't know, pretty obvious to me that she's trying to act so unbothered.
I started acting like I didn't care. But then I realized I really wasn't pretending and I actually didn't care.
It's also worth noting that Tommy and Amberlynn have this Instagram post that has the caption, "Unbothered by the noise. We're too busy creating our own happiness. Hashtag I like me better when I'm with you." So yeah, two totally unbothered girlies. For real, for sure. Totally unbothered. It couldn't be bothered at all, allegedly. But you should definitely go check out Karina's videos. I'll leave both of them linked down below. Karina also gives her own commentary and things on the stuff that Beck says in this Q&A. And I would say that generally I agree with most of it, so that might also be helpful to hear what Karina's thoughts are on those things. Feel free to go to the source material to hear directly from Beck and, of course, Karina's commentary on it. One thing that I do want to say is that anytime Beck comes up on my channel, people have questions about when they started going by the name Beck and also what Beck's pronouns are. So around the time that Beck was last posting on their own YouTube channel, they had made posts that explicitly stated that they preferred to be called Beck now. And in a live stream, they said that they would go by any pronoun, that they're willing to use any pronoun that people wanted to use. And at that time, whenever Beck's roommate Logan would be in live streams with them or in videos with them, Logan would always use they, them. So at the time, I used they, them because that seemed to be what they were most comfortable with. And in Karina's videos, she explicitly uses they, them to describe and talk about Beck as well. So I just will be using they, them in this video, and that is the explanation for why. I know because Beck isn't around as often these days, a lot of people missed those updates, and I get a lot of questions anytime I bring Beck up. So I just wanted to answer that in case people were curious. So anyways, yeah, Beck wanted to do a Q&A on somebody else's channel. They didn't want to do it on their own, and so they reached out to Karina, and Karina agreed to do that. And seemingly, Beck is very happy. Beck is engaged to somebody. It seems like, I don't know, just listening to Beck, it does sound like they're tone, their demeanor, their energy, it just seems wildly different, even from when they last were on their own YouTube channel. Like, when I watched their old YouTube stuff that they put out post breakup with Amberlynn, a lot of it still seemed like they were really struggling. It seemed like they were not in the best place mental health wise, and it seems like, I mean, at least from these little bits of conversation that we got, like, it seems like they're in a much better place, and I think that that's great. And I guess that makes me think a lot about, you know, like, a lot of the feedback about Jade, Feline, Wifey, and other people talking about Wifey's story when it comes to her relationship with Amberlynn. And I think that's a big part of why people should wait and let Jade, Wifey, Feline come forward in her own time. Like, that relationship is still very fresh for Wifey, Feline, and Jade, and now getting to see Beck as an example of somebody who has taken some time to work on themselves and take time to really get themselves in a good place and now wants to come forward to talk about these things. I think that's really important, and I'm glad that Beck seems to have done some work on themselves so that they could get to this place where they could talk about their relationship without it, like, completely wrecking their mental health. And of course, everybody handles things differently, so who knows where Jade, Wifey, Feline is at with those things, but I'm glad that it seems like Beck is in a better place mental health wise. One of the questions that Beck answered was explaining what the final straw with Amberlynn was.
When did I realize you needed to end things with Amber? What was the final straw in the relationship? There was one day where she had started pretending to be me in text messages because I had a group message with Eric and Ricky that we had for years. And we had it long before I'd even known who Amber was. And she was mad that she wasn't added to that one, that she had been added to a new one that we created for all four of us. And so she was pretending to be me, asking for her to be put in our old friend group one from years ago. And they automatically knew that it wasn't me, but they could tell that it was her, and me and her just got into a big argument about that, and it was so bad that we just ended up going to sleep. We were in the living room. I was on one chair and she was on the couch, and we went to sleep for a really long time, and when we woke up, we started fighting again, and then I ended up going to my family's that weekend, and that's whenever I decided that I didn't want to continue being in this toxic relationship anymore. That I know I was so worried about what would happen to her, who would take care of her, who would take care of the animals. That's why I stayed so long.
And wow, I think there's a lot of things to think about there. I mean, one, people are always accusing Amberlynn of having sock accounts, and Amberlynn has admitted to being Damon White back in the day. That was like actually many years ago at this point. And a lot of people are always in the comments section, like, looking for people to be fake Amberlynn accounts. And I think most of the time, it's usually just people that are supporters of Amberlynn. And a lot of people are just like, oh my God, the only way somebody can support Amberlynn is if it's Amberlynn. But it doesn't surprise me that Amberlynn is pretending to be other people. And, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that she could still be doing that on the internet in different places. But crazy that she thinks that she could do it with people who know her so well and know Beck so well. Like, crazy to me that she thinks she could pretend to be Beck in a group text with two people who had been friends with Beck longer than they had been friends with her. But I think the other thing that it makes me think a lot about is how much we now know of Amberlynn being controlling to the extent that she needs to know what's going on in her partner's phones. Like, in this case, it seems like she wanted to be a part of this group chat so she could see what was going on in that group chat, maybe, so that she could monitor what Beck was doing or Beck was communicating with Eric and Ricky. I don't know, feels very weird. And we also have heard this come up just recently in terms of, like, her wanting to know what Tommy's YouTube watch history was, and her wanting to have Erica on Life 360. Like, it's weird to me. Like, I have never felt compelled to need to know my partner's phone inside and out like that. And so it's really weird to me that, like, she has this level of trust issue with seemingly everybody she's dated. The only other thing I want to note from that is that it is, I think, a mark of who Beck is, that they wanted to stay in the relationship because they wanted to help care for the animals and wanted to help care for Amberlynn. But I also think that that was part of Amberlynn's manipulation. Like, Amberlynn, I feel like, definitely used Beck's goodwill against them, unfortunately. And, you know, I think we'll talk a lot today about the ways that, based on what Beck has shared about their story, we can talk a lot about the ways that it sounds like Amberlynn tried to manipulate that relationship, have control in that relationship, and things like that. One of the things that came up in this Q&A was also people wondering how Beck felt about Amberlynn suggesting that they were money hungry, and also wanting some more information about Amberlynn paying Beck during this live stream era. And maybe if you are newer to some of the drama, back whenever Amberlynn broke up with Beck, she was very focused on doing this live stream era. Like worse than where we're at now. It was like 2 days a week for 2 to 3 hours at a time. She had memberships on, and it was the only kind of content she was putting out in any kind of way. It does kind of feel like we might be heading that way in a little bit, but in general, it lasted for, I think, like a couple months, and it started, I think, before the breakup, but continued through the breakup, through her meeting Wifey. And before Wifey officially came into the picture, Amberlynn would talk about how just, like, anxiety-ridden she was to get on live streams alone, and how she couldn't do live streams alone, so she coerced Beck into doing these live streams with her, and also on these live streams talked about how she was going to pay Beck for this work, because that's, I mean, essentially, like, if Amberlynn wants to call it work for herself, then it was certainly work for Beck. So instead of having, like, an emotional support feeder on FaceTime with her during live streams, she had Beck at the time, and also said that she would pay Beck, and Beck had a lot to say about that.
What do I think of Amber calling me money hungry and trying to capitalize on my live streams? That's what she was doing with me, like, the whole time I was being used for live streams. And that ties into the next question. Did I ever get paid from the live streams I did with her? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Because she said that all of that money had to go toward all the bills. I don't even know how much she got. I have no idea. I don't even know how much I was supposed to get, if I was supposed to get half. I have no idea. I was just told, you do these live streams with me, you'll get money. But then she was like, you got to pay bills. So no, I didn't see anything from it. I think whenever we broke up and I moved out, I think she gave me like $100 to $200, and that's how I ended up getting the U-Haul.
Only giving Beck a couple $100s to get a U-Haul to move out is crazy to me. I mean, Karina in her video talks way more at length about how, like, legally Amberlynn probably is obligated to pay. Like, there was definitely some kind of, like, verbal contract that was going on there. And Amberlynn, like, I just have to tell you, based on what I know about how YouTube monetization works, like, she had to be making buku bucks from these live streams. The live streams at the time, like, if you even go now and look at the views that those live streams had, they're all over 100,000 views. And on top of that, Amberlynn was making money from super chats. There were also people sending super chats, like, specifically directed towards Beck. So it's crazy to me that Amberlynn was like, well, you had to pay all these bills, and also, like, here you go, here's a couple $100 so you can move out is crazy. And I also think it's crazy that Amberlynn would call any other person in her life money hungry. Like, I certainly agree that it's something to take into consideration for why people might be making content. It might help provide some ideas of motivation for why they're making it. I mean, I think I've talked about that with Alexis in general. Like, some of the things she says, it feels like she's pandering to get people to click on her videos and watch her and give her views and get her monetized and stuff like that. But regardless, like, even if that's the case, like, I still think everybody involved, Alexis, Destiny, certainly Beck, are more than welcome to try to get their bag based on their shitty relationships that they had with Amberlynn Reid. Because Amberlynn Reid is one of the last people to care about monetizing what's going on with the people in her life. And certainly of all the people, Beck, I think, went through the most on Amberlynn's channel. Beck was certainly there the longest. Beck was certainly there during, like, the height and peak of Amberlynn's popularity. And it seems like Beck didn't really make any actual money from that and was, like, held and tied to Amberlynn financially. And honestly, personally, I think Beck was the least egregious of all the people that have ever come out and, like, started YouTube channels to, like, shit talk Amberlynn and spill the tea. Like, Beck did have some content related to that, but Beck also had, probably of all of them, like, at least compared to, like, Destiny and Alexis, Beck had the most content that was not related to Amberlynn, and people actually wanted to watch it. People actually wanted to support the other types of content that Beck made because they cared about Beck, they wanted to know more about Beck's life, and most importantly, they just wanted to support Beck after they got out of the relationship with Amberlynn. It makes a lot of sense to me that Amberlynn would view that stuff as being money hungry because that's, I think, pretty much how she views, like, making her own content and doing things on her channel. Like, she literally has been money hungry despite all of this drama that might make other people, you know, a little bit more conscious of the types of things they're putting on their channel. But she's just like, I'm gonna do the lowest effort live streams, try to rake in as much money and capitalize off of all of this drama with Erica and my emotional support feeder Tommy. So it is kind of funny that she would call somebody else money hungry when it's clear she also wants to make her own coin and things like that, which, like, that's what she's here to do. I'm not shaming anybody for wanting to make money off of their involvement in Amberlynn's life, even Amberlynn herself, but it's just like, it feels like the self-awareness is lacking there. We also get confirmation from Beck that they have not been friends with Eric and Ricky in quite some time.
Said that Eric and Ricky still talk to Amber. Did Eric have a convo with me about this before reaching out to Amber? To be honest, we haven't spoken in almost a year. And whenever I became really depressed, I isolated myself, and they got upset with me for doing that and not texting them. So they stopped talking to me. And so I never tried to fight for that because that had happened other times before where they would just stop talking to me and I would have to beg for them to talk to me again. But I would go through bouts of depression and isolate myself from everyone. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was doing it to them. But, yeah, we don't talk. We had that a little falling out there. So whatever they do, I really don't care what Amber does either.
I don't think that's really a surprise to too many people, although it is nice to get confirmation straight from Beck. I think a lot of people have been speculating that Eric and Ricky had left Beck behind. And Beck also goes on to talk about how they had tried to break up with Amberlynn many, many, many times. And it even got to the extent that their family held an intervention with them to try to get them to break up with Amberlynn.
And there was a few different times that people in my life tried to get me to leave her. My family had an intervention with me. They took me to a park and was like, you know, we are begging you to leave her. You are different. You aren't the same Beck that we used to know. We're worried about you. We just don't think this is a healthy relationship. And I was just so depressed at that point. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about anything. I felt stuck. I felt it's what I deserved. I felt like I had nowhere to go if I were to leave. I don't know. There were many factors as to why. But my family did do an intervention with me.
And honestly, the stuff about the family checks out to me because it really reminded me that back in the day that Beck's family was very sloppy on the internet in terms of like posting on their public Facebooks about Amberlynn. And in fact, like if you really want to go back into both the Amberlynn Reed lore and the Zachary Michael lore, back in the day I was getting ready for a live stream or getting ready for my birthday on a live stream. I just wanted to like chat with my audience while I drink some White Claws, and somebody had sent me a screenshot of Beck's sister's Facebook where Beck's sister was like talking about Amberlynn in an unflattering way, and I read it out on my live stream, which is probably honestly truly not something I'd do today. This was, I think, back in 2019, February of 2019, so quite a while ago, and I definitely would probably not do that today. But I had done that at the time, and the next morning I woke up to Amberlynn in my DMs saying that Beck's sister was gonna sue me or whatever, which hard to say if that actually was coming from Beck's sister or was just Amberlynn pretending and speaking on behalf of Beck's sister. But yeah, not hard to believe that Beck's family didn't like Amberlynn, especially when you consider later we're going to talk about how Amberlynn also like tried to control when Beck could and couldn't see their family. But speaking about control, the last thing in the first part of the Q&A that really, was interesting to me is that Beck talked about how when they would go see Eric and Ricky, and like after they were no longer living with Eric and Ricky, when they would go visit Eric and Ricky, Amberlynn would like set timers for when Beck had to be back.
And there were also times when I would be hanging out with Eric and Ricky playing video games, and Amber would set timers for when I had to be back to hang out with her or do things for her. And I was always spending time with her. It was, just every now and then I would go hang out with Eric and Ricky. And Amber would be invited too, but she would not choose to hang out with us. And then make it a point to set a timer for whenever I had to be back.
And yeah, that just continues to be like an interesting's not the word, an awful way to realize that like Amberlynn is controlling. Like I can't think of a healthy relationship where you are, setting timers on how much time your partner can spend with their friends. Because I'm also just thinking about like the only thing similar to that I can think of is like when I was in high school and my mom gave me a curfew. Like it feels very juvenile to tell your adult partner that they can't be out past a certain time, that they can't spend a certain amount of time with their friends who they've known longer than they've known you. Like that feels really fucked up and manipulative and controlling. But also not surprising. Like also not surprising in the least bit. I think part 2 of Karina's Q&A with Beck was maybe the less of the interesting Q&As. But there is some stuff to talk about. In particular, again, whenever it comes to this like level of control, it wasn't just with Beck's friends. It was also with Beck's family, including when Beck's mom was ill.
Did she keep you from seeing your mom and family? If not directly, how did she make you feel like you couldn't go see them as much as you wanted? Yeah, she did keep me from seeing my mom and my family a lot of times. She would try to make me feel guilty. She would, even though she would be invited to come with me, she would stay home and then purposely, try to give me a time limit when to be back, or try to make it to where I didn't go at all by making me feel bad for leaving. And then there were times where she completely forbid me from going, especially when my mom was very sick. Even after we got the vaccines, she still was very hesitant about me going anywhere. But yeah, I did feel like I couldn't see my family as often as I was led to believe at the beginning when she told me to quit my job, that I would be able to see my family more.
And I actually, this is a pattern of behavior for Amberlynn. If you recall Destiny sharing about, like, the Code Red story, the Code Red incident where Amberlynn tried to keep Destiny from going and seeing her mom, like, that's very, very similar stories. And so that is just, like, so confusing to me. And also, a lot of that is probably motivated by Beck's family clearly not liking Amberlynn, so I'm sure that, Amberlynn would not want Beck to go spend time with people who don't like her. Beck also shares some information about the engagement rings and how Amberlynn, basically coerced Beck into proposing.
It's like, maybe she sensed it wasn't going to last, and I did too. We had no business getting engaged, but, she ordered the rings without me knowing and was like, these are the ones I want you to propose to me with. So I did, and I felt pressured into doing it. I didn't really want to do it, and I don't think she really wanted to do it either. She just wanted to be engaged. It wasn't, with me or anything. She just wanted to have that status.
I just thought that was interesting because I kind of forgot. Karina reminds her audience of this in her video, but I kind of forgotten that, Amberlynn switched up the story a few different times in regards to those damn engagement rings. And so it was interesting for me personally, since I'd kind of forgotten about all of that, to hear Beck say, I don't even think Amberlynn wanted to get married to me, honestly. I think she just wanted, the status of being engaged. That is all interesting to me. And the last thing that Beck took time to talk about was whether or not they had ever witnessed Amberlynn mistreating her animals, and giving kind of an in-depth understanding of how Amberlynn did or did not take care of her own animals.
Have I seen her mistreat them? No. It's just she has a hard time taking care of herself sometimes. I've struggled with that too. There were times that she wasn't taking care of them, and it would all fall on me. And then there was that one year where I couldn't take care of myself, so I know they probably weren't being taken care of exactly as they should have been. But other than that, they were never hurt.
And I think this is probably the best explanation for Amberlynn and pet care, her behavior in general as a pet parent, because personally, Amberlynn has never struck me as somebody who would intentionally harm an animal, right? At least in the really abusive kind of ways, right? I don't think she's out here hitting animals or things like that, right? Although there was that one video with Destiny where she was it Destiny that held the cat like this, or was it Amber? I don't know. It's all blurring together. But in general, when it comes to the things that Amberlynn has been criticized for as a parent, it really comes from just a place of she's clearly not abusing the animals, but she also is clearly not being a great pet parent. If we think about all of the things that she's been criticized for, it's really from a laziness perspective from Amberlynn. It's things like cutting Twinkie's nails. It's things like taking Twinkie to the vet instead of the Chili's moment situation type deal. It's overfilling her cat's cat bowls on the counter in the kitchen behind her. It's Twinkie getting into the garbage and allegedly eating pesto. It's her saying that she replaces the litter box every month because she's such a good pet parent, but that's really just as confirmed by the cat people in my comments, just her being lazy. So yeah, it makes sense to me that Amberlynn probably does heavily rely on on her partners to help care for these animals. I do get the sense that Amberlynn actually, like, you know, cares about animals, likes animals, wouldn't intentionally hurt animals. But I've always gotten the impression that Amberlynn is probably lazy when it comes to taking care of her animals, and or just in some cases not able to. I mean, I think even Beck alluded to, like, there were times where both of them, you know, struggled to take care of just themselves, let alone the 3 animals that lived in their home. So that's pretty much that. Hopefully that gives you a good overview of the things that Amberlynn could bring up in future live streams. And of course, like, feel free to go watch Karina's full-length videos. I just took the parts that I thought were particularly interesting, or that would potentially come up from Miss Amberlynn. But let me know your thoughts as well down below. That's all I have time for today. A little bit of a shorter video compared to what we've been doing over here. That's all I have time for today, so make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already. Make sure to click the bell button so you get notifications. Leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I love you all so much. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!